Out of all of the medical schools in the United States, less than a third of them have a single required course in nutrition.
Yeah.
So it's possible for a doctor to go through 6 years of medical school plus all their residency and never have a single course in nutrition. We've got a food industry that pays no attention to health, and we've got a health industry that pays no attention to food. And yet, food is the foundation of health. And I'll tell you what else, even the Association of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the major group for the dietitians of the United States, you know, they have their annual meetings, and you know who some of their sponsors are companies like McDonald's and Coca-Cola. They literally give away Coca-Cola to everyone at those meetings for free.
Money is oftentimes the deciding factor in decisions that directly affect your health and my health. It shouldn't be that way, but that's reality.
Well, we have to admit that healthcare is a business in America. In fact, there are vested interests in this business of healthcare. It's a $2.7 trillion a year medical industrial complex we have in America.
The cancer medical complex is this whole monolith that's been set up to make money on cancer. And so let's take the woman who is a young woman who's been feeling a breast lump, goes to her doctor, she goes for a mammogram, they pick up something, she's going to go for a biopsy, they pick up something, now she's going to go for an excision, tell her she's got cancer, she's going to get chemo and radiation. It's this whole system set up to treat cancer, and it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry right now. And the problem is people aren't living longer from these therapies.
This cancer industrial complex that Dr. Brownstein just mentioned, where only certain approved treatments are covered by insurance, is alive and well in the United States. But it's not just here in the United States. This is a global thing. Let's listen to Ard Pisa describe the state of affairs in Holland.
It is by law arranged in Holland that a doctor must give chemo, radiation and surgery, but no natural treatments not allowed in Holland.
Oh, natural treatments are not allowed?
No.
Well, I mean, I guess at least people in Holland have access to go to the clinic in Germany. It's close.
Yeah, it's close, but you have to pay for yourself, and that's a big problem.
Okay. Insurance doesn't cover it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Here in Holland, they pay insurance for chemo, €50,000, but €30,000 for a natural treatment in Germany, they won't pay it.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's the world upside down.
I agree with Ard Pisa. The world is upside down. And a prime example of this upside down world is in our food supply. Did you know that there are certain substances that may be in popular foods like, say, Chinese food, that literally excite brain cells to death? They're called excitotoxins. And in this next clip, Dr. Russell Blaylock, who is a neurosurgeon and a scientist, describes the role of glutamate in producing and feeding cancer.
Well, MSG is monosodium glutamate. It's just a salt of glutamate. The damaging element is the glutamate, not the monosodium. You forget that. Anything that says glutamate is an excitotoxin. That means it can destroy brain cells. Now, when I did most of my research and writing about excitotoxins, it had to do with the brain, because that's where we thought all the glutamate receptors were. Now we found out that actually there's glutamate receptors in every cell in the body. Not a single cell doesn't have glutamate receptors. Well, the second thing, once they found out there's glutamate receptors everywhere, is they found out glutamate receptors trigger and stimulate the growth and invasion of cancers of every kind. First they thought it was brain tumors only. And they demonstrated that if you had high glutamate levels around the tumor became highly invasive and grew twice as fast as a tumor that had low glutamate levels. Then they started looking at other tumors, lung tumors, colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, thyroid cancers. Every cancer they looked at, they found the same thing. Glutamate acted as a fertilizer, if you will, a stimulant for the growth of that cancer. Well, there's an enzyme in your cells called glutaminase, and its function is to convert glutamine into glutamate. And that's how that cancer cell starts producing lots of glutamate. And if you block that enzyme, this tumor starts shrinking.
Are there natural glutamate blockers that we should be familiar with?
Fortunately, there's a lot of them.
Okay.
Virtually all your flavonoids that I've discussed, curcumin, quercetin, ellagic acid, resveratrol, anthocyanins, they all reduce glutamate receptor activity. And that's their advantage. And they do it safely, so that the brain can function normally, but the cancer can't use it. Cancer cells use two major fuels.
Okay.
They use glucose and they use glutamine. Of the two,
Sugar.
glutamine is a more powerful stimulant for cancer cell growth. So if you eat a lot of sugar and you eat a lot of glutamine, you're really stimulating your cancer powerfully. And so the idea is you want to cut down on your glutamine intake. Beans like black beans are high in glutamine. Mushrooms are high in glutamine. So these foods that are high in glutamine, you don't want to eat either. You want to try to eat only low glutamine foods, and a lot of those are your vegetables. And some cancer researchers think, well, this may be why people who are on vegetarian diets and juicing seem to have these spontaneous cures of their cancer, is because they have such a low glutamine intake and a low sugar intake.
Wow.
Both.
So they're getting rid of the two fuels.
You're getting rid of two fuel. Now, cancer cannot use fat for its fuel. So coconut oil is a good way to keep your energy up without having to resort to sugar, and cancer can't use it.
MSG is one form of glutamate. What are some other sources of glutamate to avoid?
Well, the industry, really got hammered when my book EKSITOTOKSINI came out, and everybody was looking at glutamate, and so they started taking MSG off the label, and they even put on the label contains no MSG, and then they put sources of glutamate in it, like hydrolyzed protein, soy protein isolate, soy protein concentrate, autolyzed yeast, caseinate is a very common one. All of those are extremely high in glutamate, but the law allows them to put those in the foods and still put on the label contains no MSG.
So you want to watch out for all the forms of glutamate.
All the forms of glutamate, and particularly soy. Soy is naturally high in glutamate and glutamine, as well as aluminum and fluoride and manganese.
Wow.
It's got a lot of toxins in it. Soy is a very bad food, and particularly a liquid food. If you get it in milk and soy liquid products, it's very high glutamate levels. Your blood level will rise as much as 20-fold to 50-fold.
And that's even if it's organic soy, right?
Doesn't make any difference. It's natural to the plant, And in my estimation, people shouldn't be consuming soy products.
Dr. Blaylock mentioned that glutamate is not only a fuel, but it's also a fertilizer for cancer cells. Now, when you hear fuel for cancer, most people that have been paying attention thus far in the series are going to say sugar. The good news is you don't have to give up sugar. You don't have to give up good tasting food to be able to live a healthy lifestyle. You do have to give up man-made processed sugars if you're going to be healthy, but nature produces all kinds of natural sugars that are really good for us. The reason they're good for us is because they contain the whole spectrum of nutrients, they contain the fiber, and so when we eat nature's candies, when we eat these fruits, especially the fruits and the vegetables that nature produces, we're going to be able to satisfy that sweet tooth while we're at the same time keeping our bodies healthy through nature's pharmacy.
Welcome to my pharmacy. I mean, this is where we start talking about, people think that modern medicine has to be controlling, invasive, disabling, expensive, and dangerous. And that's what most modern medicine is. In fact, real medicine is phytonutrients that nourish the body. They're antioxidants. They regulate abnormal growth. They stimulate apoptosis or programmed cell death. We're going to start with one of my 60 fruit trees, black raspberries. What we have here, Ty, is arguably one of the most impressive medicines that you can find, anthocyanins, antioxidants, ORAC, so oxygen radical absorbent capacity off the charts, add in ellagic acid, which stimulates cancer cells to commit suicide. And what you have is this feeds the brain, the lens of the eye, it prevents cancer. This is real medicine. And so phycin is one of the more important phytochemicals in figs, and again, proven to stimulate apoptosis or programmed cell death in cancer cells. Delicious. And if you think of all the ingredients, one of the things you're looking for here is prebiotics. Plant food, fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes contain substances that we cannot digest, but our 100 trillion cells in the gut are using it for food. And if we feed our gut properly, it's called the microbiota, what we end up is we're making vitamin biotin, vitamin K. We're also stimulating the immune system. What they find now is 2/3 of the immune system surrounds the gut. And by things that we cannot digest, that prebiotics are going to improve our immune system.
By the way, Patrick, that fig that I just ate,
Yeah.
that's the sweetest fig I've ever
Isn't that
tasted.
delicious?
That's incredible.
I'll tell you what, one of the things that I do, I add Epsom salts to the soil. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. If you look at green plants, what you have here is green chlorophyll, and chlorophyll takes the energy of the sun combined with water and carbon dioxide, and it makes sugar. And then from that it makes proteins and all these exotic phytochemicals that protect us from disease. Well, the beauty of this whole business of that, the middle of that chlorophyll molecule is magnesium. If the plant doesn't get enough magnesium, it doesn't make enough chlorophyll. Doesn't get enough chlorophyll, it won't make enough sugar. It's not going to get sweet enough, and all the other chemicals that it makes. So I put like a handful of Epsom salts in a gallon of water and dissolve it at the base of the tree about 3 times a year. Delicious fruit.
That's a great tip for people that are growing their own food.
You know, do you see any bugs, anything on that?
No.
This is all biodynamic, organic, and I'm not fighting any bugs. Essentially, the plant has its own immune system, just like you and I do, just like you people do. What you have is these beautiful dark cherries, and they're sweet, aren't they? They're delicious. And what nature is saying is, all right, what I got is some sugar here, and the fungus living around us in the trillions wants to eat this. And so the plant has to create its own protection. It creates a substance called phytoalexins, and that is, one of those is resveratrol. People have heard about it in red grapes. Grapes are another thing. So the sweet thing in the grape has to protect itself. So if a fungus lands on this and it eats that phytoalexin, it dies. It's sort of its own, it's a pre-drug, essentially. The drug companies can't duplicate this stuff. And that's the beauty of what we've got here, is that you cannot patent a natural substance, and that's why the $280 billion a year drug industry can't come up with something as effective as this. Phytoalexins in red and green fruits and vegetables have been shown to be anti-cancer, the same way that they protect the plant against fungus.
There are so many good, non-toxic ways to treat cancer that it's laughable what standard medicine is doing. But they all work in different ways. For instance, the salvestrol works on an enzyme system. CYP1B1 is the enzyme system that it works on. Well, this is a natural product found in fruits and vegetables that CYP1B1 enzyme converts into a toxic product. So this fruit extract, vegetable extract, acts as a prodrug. It's not a drug. Your normal cells don't have that enzyme system, so it can't convert it. So it doesn't hurt normal cells. But the cancer cells have the CYP1B1, so it converts it into a toxic substance, killing the cancer cells. So that's just an instance of how a particular natural therapy might work. It was found because, and why don't we have salvestrol today in our body? Well, natural fruits and vegetables produce it just in the last day or two, right as they become ripe, because that's when they're higher in sugars, and that's when fungi tend to attack the fruits and vegetables. So that's when they make salvestrol. Who eats vine-ripened fruit today?
Unless you have your own garden, you don't.
That's it. Nobody, because it's all picked green.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're eating it in a natural food store or an organic food store, it's still picked green to ship to you. Because that's the only way they can get it there and not lose half their produce to spoilage.
Another very famous thing in Russia is chaga.
Chaga mushroom.
Chaga mushroom. It has so many benefits. It's almost like curcumin. So you can say it's like a Russian curcumin because it basically does everything. It's anti-cancer, it's anti-inflammatory, it's got lots of minerals, and 15% of chaga is ash. And ash has lots of manganese. And manganese is a very important factor in enzymes, activating enzymes.
Manganese.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, nature's medicine chest is truly phenomenal. The sulforaphanes in broccoli, the sprouts with all of their amazing nutrient profile, chaga mushrooms, Russian curcumin, as Dr. Boris Greenblatt called it. Now, let's learn a little bit about the citrus fruits, grapefruit and oranges.
And we know from the National Institutes of Health in America, I think it was Mark Levine, studies in 2008 showing that over 50,000 milligrams vitamin C can take on cancer. and leave healthy cells intact.
Right.
I find grapefruit a fascinating subject, Ty, because every pharmacist, every medical doctor tells all their patients don't touch grapefruit. And what happens is grapefruit accelerates a detoxification enzyme in the liver, which changes the pharmacokinetics of drugs. So if you take a drug, it will have different activity if you're on grapefruit than if you're not.
Okay.
And so they tell you, don't eat grapefruit if you're on drugs. And I agree, I'm not against that. I got another idea. Get healthy and start eating the grapefruit because it improves the function of your liver and detoxification pathways. Basically, oranges are good for you. Citrus has got everything from bioflavonoids, rutin, hesperidin, vitamin C, fiber, all those things that I mentioned. But blood orange goes a step further and it develops these red pigments for all of the phytochemicals that are going to protect you against heart disease, cancer, aging, inflammation. It's phenomenal. You know, I have a few silent partners that work with me, the birds. And what I sort of give them, I tithe to them. I give them 10%, they eat the insects, and everybody's happy. This is a peach tree, and there was a study that came out of Harvard in which they showed that people who ate peaches twice a week lowered their risk for breast cancer by 40%. How simple can it get? If that was a drug, it would have been headlines in USA Today, CNN, everywhere, and the drug company's stock would have doubled. There's at least 8,000 different carotenoids, at least 20,000 different bioflavonoids in fruits and vegetables. And they find that these things are extraordinary as anti-aging, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. There's 12 million Americans who are on the Vioxx Celebrex drugs. They have chronic inflammation, chronic pain. Eat more fruits and vegetables. And here's the soundbite I hope our viewers can take home. A healthy human body is self-regulating and self-repairing. It will protect itself from infections. It will slow down the aging process. If it finds any cancer, it will eliminate them.
One of the things he mentioned was that the food industry is creating all of these substitute sugars. What was he talking about? That leads us to excitotoxin number 2 tonight, aspartame.
Aspartame has been studied for a long time, and what a researcher did, he said, I'm going to look at all the research that's been done, those that are sponsored by the makers of aspartame versus independent studies. What he found, virtually all the independent studies found harmful problems. Now, the carefully done studies show that it's a carcinogenic agent and that it combines with other carcinogens like nitrites from your food, become even more carcinogenic. They found in the original studies, to get approval for using NutraSweet, in the original studies they found increased brain tumors, about a 6-fold increase in brain tumors. They found increased lung tumors, breast cancers, breast tumors, all sort of tumors and thyroid cancers were found.
What I found out through the example of aspartame being the best example of how bad the situation actually is, the medical deception, that it's neurotoxic, it's cancer promoting, it's ruining your immune system, your endocrine system. So it's a very dangerous substance we should not be drinking or eating in what way whatsoever.
Over the summer, we traveled to Tijuana, Mexico to the Hope for Cancer Clinic. And we were able to get a tour of the clinic and to see the different innovative therapies that they are using. Join us now as Dr. Tony Jimenez, the medical director for the clinic, takes us on a tour.
We have the phototherapy, and this is as you see, it has red lights, blue lights, and a row of lights that are not on. But guess what? They are on. It's just invisible light in the near infrared spectrum. Okay. So photodynamic therapy will also wake up the sensitizer and allow it to activate itself within cancer cells, and that forms oxygen radicals, O-. And O-, as you know, are toxic to cancer cells, and they set off the apoptosis or programmed cell death. In addition to that, it provides a local inflammatory response, so thereby the immune system can come and target that area. Now we're going to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber room. So we know oxygen and cancer don't combine. And so the 1 hour that the patient is in here, you're saturating the cells with oxygen. 1 hour is the duration of the treatment. Okay. This is one of the preferred treatments at Hope for Cancer, not only for its efficacy, but because it allows the patient to relax there for an hour,
In January of 2007, I was diagnosed with invasive bladder cancer. The recommendation and the mainstream medical treatment for invasive bladder cancer is to remove the bladder, prostate, and surrounding lymph nodes.
Okay.
When they did the surgery, they found that the cancer was also in my lymph nodes. This was previously undetected on my initial test. So suddenly I went from a possible cure rate of about 90% down to about 40%, and I was going to have chemo. When I met with the oncologist, he requested another scan. So the scan results came back. I had 3 tumors in my liver that were previously undetected on the initial scan.
Okay.
At that time, I asked my oncologist, was there a chance of a cure? He said, not really. He added that with bladder cancer metastasized to the liver, that the average life expectancy was 9 months. Some people die in 4 months, and he had never seen anyone last longer than 12 months. My brother, his wife, my wife and I really started researching alternative cancer treatments, clinics, and so forth. May of 2008, I came to Hope for Cancer. I completed an inpatient program and continued with their home program. And I'm proud to say that since then, all of my tests and scans have indicated I am cancer-free.
And that's from a pretty bleak prognosis, right? Less than a year, you're alive.
Yeah.
8 years later.
This is pulsating electromagnetic field therapy. Again, to affect the cell, we could pulsate water, we could pulsate the cells, we can help reduce the tumor size by energy. So we'll start with a 3-minute session. I'm going to increase the intensity. You're going to feel maybe your muscles jumping a little bit. And here we're affecting. You're beginning to feel that?
Yeah, feel the twitching.
Yeah, feel the twitching. So now we're sending electromagnetic fields. It's very good for pain, very good for inflammation. You want to see what we just, what kind of energy we gave you?
Yeah.
All right. Can you stand up for a second,
Sure.
please? And hold this like this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a chain, as you see.
Wow.
So I take it, it closes the loop.
Some serious energy.
This is a near-infrared sauna as opposed to a far-infrared sauna.
So, Dr. Tony, what's the difference between a far infrared and a near infrared? I've got a little personal far infrared at the house.
Near-infrared light has a greater depth of penetration than far-infrared. Near-infrared light is more detoxing. You know that saunas and infrared light pulls out toxic and heavy metals.
Near infrared is less EMFs and it penetrates further.
Here we have local direct hyperthermia. What is hyperthermia? High heat. We know, science knows, that cancer cells are heat sensitive. Normal human cells are heat resistant. That's why when we have a flu, a virus, an infection, we get a fever to kill the bugs, but it doesn't kill our healthy cells. Right? And it's a very easy, non-invasive therapy. This is the one. Of course, if let's say the patient has a tumor in the breast, right? We put a conductive gel, natural, non-toxic. We crank up the device, and then the treatment is done externally.
Okay.
And this is using both capacitance and resistance, different types of energy to get to superficial as well as to deep tumors.
Now, as opposed to what we've already seen with the near-infrared sauna, that's also hyperthermia, isn't it?
Correct.
This is just a different machine that does the same thing?
Not exactly. It doesn't do the same thing because that's more for pulling out toxins. That's more for superficial opening up of the pores, for cleansing, detoxing. Okay. This, local hyperthermia, and we also have full body hyperthermia here, is a therapeutic treatment for cancer.
Okay.
Meaning it's going after the cancer cells, it's going after the bugs.
Got it.
The viruses, the bacteria, the fungus.
So it's good doing both?
It's good doing both, yes.
Great. Wow, it's really amazing the amount of material we covered in just a short time tonight. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you're ready for tomorrow's episode, because we're going to cover more ground. In the meantime, have a great evening. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow.